Hey, welcome back to the shop. This week's project is going to be a restoration. I've got 3 really old seats for a swing set that I'm going to be restored. I'll bring you in closer and tell you a little bit more about them. I'll also have a little more detailed information in the video description. Let's get started. Okay, what I've got here are the brackets for one seat. I've got one seat that's completely original. The wood is really weathered, but it feels pretty solid. I'm going to see if there's a way that I can sand this down, maybe coat it with a countertop epoxy or something before we paint it. Yeah, I just don't know. And then this seat here was replaced by the owner many years ago. Actually, the fellow that gave this to me was replaced by his dad, just so they could use it. And you can see he didn't quite, do it the way the original was done, with the wood coming complete over here and this being riveted in. So the project is to restore this one the best we can. We want to try and get this red paint off of the brackets and we'll make a new seat for this, and we'll make a new seat for this. Anyway, I'm going to start with a little bit of acetone and see if that will do anything to this paint. And I'm going to start on the bottom side. See if that's having any effect on it, which it is a little bit. All right. On this one, I'm going to test with a little bit of lacquer thinner. Seems like maybe the acetone's working a little better. Let me get a little. All right, that spray stripper didn't work so well, so I am going to try this aircraft remover. This is the best stripper I have found for metal over the years. So I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more of this off, and then we'll go from there. Just going to work it in with a brush, and then I'm going to let it sit for about 10-15 minutes. I got a little mineral spirits here. Yeah, I think that stripper did a little better. I'll clean it off with mineral spirits. Well, I think we're getting there, slowly but surely. Anyway, I'm going to keep working with these, and I'll just come back whenever I get all this stuff done, cleaned up. Here's where I'm at on the side brackets. So if you remember, this is the one seat that was all original wood, original bracket with no paint on it. All the other brackets had some sort of red paint on there that was kind of chipping off, and it wasn't in very good shape. So I ended up just sandblasting all 4 of these. I couldn't get them clean with the wire wheel. I tried strippers. This one has also been run across the wire wheel after sandblasting. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and go coat it with a coat of Duplicolor Rust Fix, which I like to use on metal before I paint anyway. It'll darken it up a good bit, and I don't know, that may be the final coat. I'm just going to go try it and see. I'm just going to get a couple coats of some clear on these seat brackets, and I'm going to use a flat clear. Okay, on the original seat, I am going to start with just trying to sand it with some 120 and see what it looks like. I don't know if it's salvageable or not. All right, before I kind of coat this whole thing with some countertop epoxy, I'm going to try and fill this big crack here and what I can of this one back here. with just some regular epoxy. I'm going to put some tape on the back side here in case it wants to seep through. All right, my epoxy is hardened really good here. There is still a lot of depth to this crack. I mean, it's still about maybe a 1/4 inch deep. And this over here is much deeper. Nothing came out of the back side, so that epoxy is flowing somewhere and it's just getting into all the grain. So I'm going to sand this off and do another coat of this. A friend of mine brought these seats over, these swing set seats, and the story he tells me behind this is, I think back in the early part of the 20th century, maybe around, I don't know, 1920s, somewhere in there, he grew up in New Jersey, and the Singer Sewing Machine Company, which I believe was in Brunswick or New Brunswick, New Jersey, had a piece of property that they would have company picnics and events and let the company employees go out and use, and they had various playground equipment out there for the children to play in, and they had several sets of swings. And my friend's dad, who was a collector of all sorts, when I guess they shut the property down or sold it back in maybe the 1970s or early 80s, somewhere in there, he was able to get one of the swing sets, one of the sets of swing sets. So this ended up at my friend's house and was his swing set that he grew up on. And when they relocated to North Carolina years ago, they brought this with them, and having sitting out in the weather for the last probably close to 100 years, the seats deteriorated over time in the weather, and he's asked me to fix these up because there are another generation of kids that would love to have these to play on. So it's kind of a neat story behind the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and that's why we're trying to fix them up. All right, this is still a little tacky, but I think it's dry enough that I can move on. So I've been saying I was going to put a countertop epoxy on there. I actually don't know whether it's countertop or not. It's a clear coating and casting resin. I've only used this product one other time, and I had good results with it, so I'm going to give it a shot for this. You just mix it 50-50, so I've got 2 small cups here. I'm just going to pour equal amount in each cup. Might be time to clean out my lumber rack. I need to take some measurements off the original seat and the brackets, and then I can start sizing up my new wood. Got a nice piece of white oak here, which I'm pretty sure that's what the original wood was. And that should stand the test of time really nice. So I've got to plane these down just a little bit. A lot of burning. Not too bad on my stock piece. I did back this up just not even hardly a 1/16 of an inch before I started sawing because I knew it burned, and that way I can hand plane this off. So let's go get that done. Okay, I've got my 3/8 roundover bit in the router table, and I'm going to put the roundover on both top and bottom, both sides, so the seats are comfortable to sit on. All right, the last thing I want to do before I paint the new seats is I want to get the brackets installed, and then I want to go ahead and pre-drill these 1/4 inch holes that will accept the carriage bolts. I got everything set up here ready to paint. The first thing I'm going to do is wipe everything down with this tack cloth. Okay, I've stirred and strained my paint, and I'm using a Benjamin Moore paint called Fresh Start. This is just a white primer, and I always have them add just a drop or two of black to give me a little bit of color that I use when I'm painting dark colors. It's an oil-based paint that I always start off with exterior projects, so I'll get 2 coats of this oil-based primer on here, and then I'll sand smooth and then top coat with latex. I'm going to start on the bottom side, and then I've got some points I can set it on to paint the top. All right, so the first coat of paint's dried for about 6 hours. It's hard enough to do what I'm going to do next, so I'm going to be putting the brackets on, and the way I'm going to install these is I'm going to use carriage bolts because they've got this square shank in here, which will seat nicely down into the wood. So I'm going to get them put through this way, which is the way the original ones were done. And I've got to measure these, and I'm going to cut a little bit off. Then I'm going to heat the end of this up and paint it over. This was a really cool little project for me. So just to recap real quickly, so these swing set seats were from a friend of mine whose family obtained these from the Singer Sewing Machine Company kind of family picnic area playground back in the 70s. And these were the swing set seats that he grew up swinging on. So he wanted to get them restored and rebuilt for the next generation. This is the original one that I coated with the tabletop epoxy. And I think it came out pretty good. And then we had to make these two. He had remembered them being a green color back when he was growing up, so we went back with a green, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one.